life-preserving tax tips, quotes, and advice from Jeffrey Schneider, EA, CTRS, and the captain of your tax ship to keep it from going down in the bad seas. Thanks for talking with me.
Thank you very much, Lauren, for having me.
So today, webinar number 1. How about a little bit of identifying, explaining, and introducing your tax professional? And as we lead in to talk about the new year, it's 2018, you're looking at an 18-minute free consult by phone or video, or if they come in here. Is that correct?
That's right, Lauren. We are offering an 18-minute consultation to discuss whatever you basically want. We can talk about the new tax code that's coming up. We know it's going to be passed. We just don't know what kind of format it's going to be in right now. But I know there's going to be a lot of questions out there, so we're offering this to help our audience.
We're talking about 18 minutes where when you look at the problems of, for some people, 18 years, or somebody getting a divorce, and we'll get into this further, but somebody getting a divorce, somebody starting a new business, somebody that's been avoiding or throwing away the letters that have been coming in the mail, the tax notices that have been arriving, and a book that may be arriving too, I believe January 18th, for, what is the title of your new book?
Help, I got a notice, now what? It's a book about all notices that people can get from getting what's called a CP 2000 at the IRS. We have this on record. You filed this. Why is there a difference? From getting a notice of a federal tax lien, meaning, or a levy, we're going to take your money, and everything in between. The book is all about that and what we can do to help.
Okay. Now let's circle back around. I don't know how many people remember Beverly Hills Cop. It was Gilbert Gottfried being the stereotypical accountant and just out of his mind to this stereotype, the negative perceptions of stereotypes to the negative connotations and everywhere in between. As we're introducing, we call you your tax professional because it stands out in a way that you break a lot of stereotypes. You are not the person that people expect when they expect a tax professional of your caliber.
Well, I'm basically two people. I have a life outside of this, but I take my profession very seriously. I've been in this field since 1979. I have several different designations. I'm an enrolled agent. I'm a certified tax resolution specialist. I'm a fellow of the National Tax Practice Institute. But I'm also, to the chagrin of our moderator, a Yankee fan. So I have a lot of different facets of my life. And when you come into my office, you see I have Yankee stuff all over the place. So a lot of my clients and I talk about it, even if they are Red Sox fans.
You know, in talking with one of your new clients that is a friend of mine, as she approached you, she was the one that mentioned it to me of saying she was expected to be talked down to. And I think that that is something that people in your field tend to do. They know better. How could you do this? Okay, there's a problem. But your approach, there's a relating element. There's an array of a person behind the expert. And a lot of people that have expertise lose that personality.
Well, when I was in high school, I wanted to be a teacher. My father was an accountant, so I wanted to do that. But back living in New York, I always wanted to be a teacher. And as a matter of fact, my friend and I were the two youngest certified teachers in the New York City school system. We taught third grade gym. And I always wanted to do that, except at that time we had all the budget crunches, and there went that idea. So I turned to the next best thing, and I was going to be a true accountant. I was do accounting, except one thing: I hate accounting. I was going to go to law school. I love law and I love numbers. Taxes takes both of those disciplines and combines them. So I am a lawyer at heart, but I like doing numbers. And I use my teaching to teach clients how to conduct their business, how to conduct their lives. And sometimes, yeah, you have to talk down to clients. I very rarely do that at the beginning. But I do that if they just don't follow certain instructions. Now, there are certain rules that you have to abide by. And it's not because I'm being conservative, not because I'm being follow the rules, every little detail. But if the law says don't, you don't. My job is to figure out that gray and when we can do things. But if a client goes to me, for example, you have to take payroll, and they refuse to take payroll, I have to come down on them. That's my job. Otherwise, I'm useless.
This is experience, and at the same time, with an element of mental and professional discipline to empower them to remedy the mistakes that have been made and make sure that those mistakes have never been made again.
Well, here's what a lot of people don't realize. When you sign a return, no matter what return, be it a corporate return, be it an individual return, a sales tax return, You're signing under perjury, under penalties of perjury. It's your return. Yes, I have to do my due diligence, but if you give me all this information and it looks good, I don't have to check and audit you. I don't have to look at every little receipt. That's why when somebody says to me, "Do I have to bring all my receipts?" I go, "Oh God, no." I do have to do my due diligence, but once I pass that, it's your responsibility. It's the taxpayer's responsibility. So my job is to make sure they're following through, because sometimes taxpayers are like teenagers. I know better. I can do this. It's never going to happen to me. Well, one of these days it's going to happen to you.
And that leads in perfectly to the cusp of this webinar and the three key points while introducing and defining and describing you, the 3 points of the 3 styles and different types of people that need to come through your door, that need to call. And the first person, we're gonna hit this right off the bat. The first person that absolutely knows they have a problem, whether receiving the notices, whether them just smartening up. The second person that's wondering, do I have a problem with the IRS? And the third person, the third type of person or business, I have nothing to worry about. I'm fine. I don't need to worry. So to go back to the first person, that person that maybe they used online software. We're not going to name a given company, or some kind of the seasonal tax professional that they fill up a building and a couple weeks later they're gone. And unfortunately, what was filled out on those forms, anything incorrect is now gone, and now you're receiving a notice. Let's take that one example there. Somebody they thought they had it simple, they filled it all out, and then a couple weeks later, a little bit of a surprise. Where do they benefit in those 18 minutes? They have a surprise. Why should they talk to you?
Well, here's the thing. I understand the notices. The first time a CP2000 is a prime example. Remember what I said? It's the IRS saying I have this versus what you reported as that. Now let's talk about the software. The software is as good as the information you put in. You've heard the term garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't understand, and the software is, you use the word artificial intelligence. Well, they're not intelligent. They will only ask you questions based on what you answered. And if you don't understand the nuances of what they're asking, you'll give them a wrong answer and they'll ask you something else, so it just compounds. I understand what's going on. I know what questions to ask based on what your situation is. We had an old saying back in our firm when we first started, we get to know our clients, and that's my job. I get to know you. I get to know your business. I get to know the nuances of your life. So this way I can ask you everything correctly and get the correct information. Now, do we make mistakes? Of course we do. There's certain questions. I don't know what I don't know. I just know enough to answer. So can you just think about a piece of software that knows absolutely nothing about you, doesn't even see you? So that's some of the things that the difference between myself and those software companies. The big box companies, it also has nothing to do with the big box companies. It's the person you're dealing with. Not all of them are licensed. I'm an enrolled agent. I'm federally licensed. I took an exam that's 100% taxes. I specialize in this. No other initials can say the same thing. No other initial can say they're nationally recognized. No other initial can say they took an exam just on taxes. There's a bunch of other stuff. So I am a specialist. I've been trained, the CTRS, Certified Tax Resolution Specialist. I specialize in people in trouble, people who are in big trouble. And that's taking care of notices too. And if, for example, if you got a notice and you went into Joe Blow down the street, who's not an enrolled agent, a CPA, or an attorney, they can't help you. They think they can, but they only do it by writing a letter in your name. I will represent you. That's the difference. They can't.
You know, it brings my mind, and I'm sure people watching this, to the idea of the doctor. It's, you don't want to reveal something. They are unable to complete the diagnosis and help you to the extent of what they can help you. So if you're not making that statement, if inside the 18 minutes you don't want to share something, you're not going to find out the direction of where you can go. And to put a little break there, this is 18 minutes to zero you in on the track of making the plan to continue to remedy, resolve, and repair what's going on. Your tax problems are not going to be solved in 18 minutes, but you will have a direction and a path that you can take with Jeffrey, that you can take with SFS to get to solving them? Let's not go into that mindset.
There's no way I can analyze the whole situation and perform brain surgery in 18 minutes. But my job is to ascertain what may be hiding behind the scenes. I've looked at hundreds of returns a year, thousands of returns in my career. So you can't hide anything. I can see what you're giving me and then ask you 15 other questions. But that's not going to happen in 18 minutes. I just can say, okay, you have this potential problem. Now we bring you in and we go analyze the problem and we fix it. Because IRS is not going away. A lot of people say, if I ignore this letter or if I just don't open it. You don't know how many times a client will come in and bring you in 25 envelopes unopened. And they're deadlines. And the IRS has very specific deadlines that if you don't follow them, you can get levied, or suddenly your boss will get a wage garnishment, and there's nothing you can do about it at that time until we fix it. But by that time, they might have withheld from your paycheck several $100s, and you don't get that back.
The value of the evaluation that you can get in 18 minutes, it can be both calming and disturbing. But inside of 18 minutes, that's where you can make the plan to solve this, to create. Now, tell me inside of those 18 minutes, and the next step in working with you about, there's an evaluation, a packet that you put together, an analysis.
Basically, what I can do is I can pull, if I see that there is issues. For example, I had a client that called today, and he said, I haven't filed in 13 years. 13 years, okay? And how much did the IRS say you owe? And he told me about $14,000, and he was hesitant. So there's something missing there, but I was only on the phone for about 5 minutes. So in 18 minutes, I can find out what years, how much do they say you owe. That doesn't mean that's what you really owe, because even if you haven't filed, the IRS can file a return for you. A lot of people don't realize that. And they file it in the worst possible light. For example, if you're a 1099 employee, independent contractor, you have expenses against that. Well, when the IRS prepares a return, you don't get those expenses for one very good reason. They don't know what they are. You have to tell them. We live in what's called a voluntary tax society. And yes, you're going to say, well, we have to file tax returns. Yes, that is. But what you put on the return is voluntary. As opposed to some other countries, Germany, for example, they complete the return for you. That's different than we do. So that's some of the things I do. I can ask a lot of questions and say, okay, based on what you just told me, we need to pursue this path. And then we go from there.
There was on a couple months back a reference to you being the enrolled agent's educator. You're not just speaking with the clients. You're not just speaking with the businesses, the entrepreneurs, the people that are getting divorced, the people that mistook the software for what it was. You empower, educate, and speak to agents all over the country.
I'm an educator. I travel around the country teaching other enrolled agents and CPAs and attorneys about not only tax practice, meaning how to prepare a tax return and some of the nuances, but in what's called taxpayer problems. I'll teach them about innocent spouse. I'll teach them about installment agreements. I'll teach them about office and compromise. And I go around about 15 times a year to different places, and I teach anywhere from 4 to 8 hours over a couple of days, and sometimes several hundred people. I also do webinars. The last webinar I did had 652 people, and they were all tax professionals. So I teach them what I try to help taxpayers get through.
The level of service and the education that you provide to the other people, this is something that you can get directly with Jeffrey. Now, before we go on to the second set of people here, as we're saying, we want to introduce you, the tax renaissance problem solver. Now, inside of Renaissance, you usually think of certain things with class and stature. To go in a different direction, though, you're into wrestling.
Yeah, we're not talking about college wrestling, freestyle, Greco-Roman. I've been a pro wrestling fan since, I guess, 1963. Since I'm a little kid, watching it sometimes on the VHF stations. And for those of us who are over 60 years old know what VHF is. And they were in Spanish. So I would listen to it in Spanish, and believe it or not, I learned Spanish a little bit that way. But I watch wrestling. I watch it to this day. Yes, we know it's fake. Oh, if you listen to Ric Flair, it's not fake. It's choreographed. But I know that it's like a soap opera. But yes, I like it. It's funny sometimes. They're athletes. I love what they can do from an athletic standpoint. And it's just entertainment for me. And I watch it as a way to just take my mind off things, even while I'm working.
That's great. Now, what would be, let's say, just 3 things that people wouldn't expect or suspect of Jeffrey A. Schneider, EA, CTRS, speaker, problem solver. Let's bring it back to the persona and the personality here. What are a couple more things that just would blow the average person away that has their stereotype of what a tax professional is like?
Well, I like the situation, and let me rephrase that. I care about my client's tax situation more than they do. I get involved with their situation. When they owe taxes on a tax return, I feel worse than they do. They're expecting it, and I feel bad. I try to help them. I try to keep them on the right path. But a lot of thing is, I like to have a drink now and then. I'll meet in a networking group. I like to go out.
What's your drink of choice?
My drink of choice? Well, there's a tequila called pomegranate tequila that comes out of Mexico. You can get it from just a few years ago. You couldn't even have it delivered into this country. You had to get it in Mexico. We took cruises just to go to Mexico to bring this. That's how sick it is, but it's absolutely delicious. I like a nice beer, nice cold brew on a hot Sunday.
What's your beer
afternoon.
style?
Well, I'm on a low-carb diet, so right now it's anything that's low-carb, Milk Ultra, but I really am a Yingling fan.
Pennsylvania.
I like Yingling. I'm not into lager. I don't like the real dark brews, but Yingling is probably my first choice.
So, staying with the dark brews, is it dark chocolate or white chocolate? Do you have a sweet tooth in there?
Oh, I like milk chocolate. That's a big argument to my wife and I. She's a dark chocolate, so I have to eat more of that. Because if we buy any chocolate, it has to be dark. It's an antioxidant, so we have to worry about cancer.
Now, circling back here, the second type of person, when you hear, I think I might have a problem.
Oh, I hear that a lot.
I think. To me, maybe it's Captain Obvious putting out his cape, but if you think you have a problem, 18 minutes to go into 2018 to resolve your thoughts. And if you think you have a problem, I'm guessing you probably in most cases do.
I'll give another prime example. We have clients, or people call me up and say, I only owe $10,000 or $11,000 over a couple of years. And the IRS said I can pay $150 a month. Okay, if you can afford $150 a month plus interest and penalties, it's pretty good. But do you know that if you're over $10,000, there is a lien in your name in the county records? You're not notified of that, but it's there. A lot of people have argued with me till we called up the county records, and it's there. That's if you owe $10,000. Now, for us, I happen to be in South Florida. We're lucky in a certain way right now because after Hurricane Irma came, they put a stop to the issuing of liens. And this week, there's no liens anywhere because it's now the holiday season. IRS has a little sense of fair play this time of year. Basically, it's only because their systems are being changed over to the new year. It's not because it's holiday. They're not being that nice. But come January, those liens are going to come out in full force. If you owe over $10,000, you're going to get a lien in your name. It's called a silent lien. If you ignore them, and sometimes just easy as 30 days, you'll get what is called a notice of federal tax lien. A notice of federal tax lien means everybody is notified. It's not just the county. You'll get a certified letter, and then if you can do that, you can get an intent to levy and notice of levy, meaning they're going to take money out of your bank account. They're going to take money from your pensions, if you get a pension, Social Security. You don't know how many people over 62 years old who are still working owe money because Social Security is taxable if you have wages, if you earn enough money, and they owe money, and then all of a sudden they're withholding from their pension, their Social Security amount. And they don't know that until it happens. So I have to deal with a lot of what we call levy releases, levy withdrawals to get that to stop.
And inside of those 18 minutes to understand a little bit more of, do I have a problem? I think I might have a problem, and you do. As you go into the new year, as you budget for anything, for a vacation, for a new car, for a couch, a mattress, are you budgeting for resolve inside of the resolutions of 2018? And inside of those first 18 minutes to outline that blueprint of the year that you can spend with Jeffrey or SFS, it's going to make the next year a lot more comfortable.
And here's something people have to understand. The process to go through what's called a transcript analysis, we basically pull all your transcripts, your account transcripts, your return transcripts, for whatever years that were in question. I always do the year before to the year after. We analyze it. We tell people exactly what the IRS has on you. Then to analyze that, and then to determine if you need an installment agreement, an offer and compromise, what's called a collection due process, to stop the IRS. You heard this on the radio. Stop IRS collections. It's not that simple. We can do it, and there's certain ways we have to do it, but it's not cheap. I have to be straightforward with that. A lot of people come into me and say, it costs that much. It's not, because it's a long time. An offer and compromise can take up to 2 years. The IRS has 24 months to finalize an offer and compromise. Does it always take that long? No, but it can. I'm doing one now that's 11 months old. 11 months old. And it still hasn't been resolved because they always ask for more information. And the longer they delay, I have to update the information provided, even though we gave them the current information at the time we sent them the offer. So it's not an inexpensive proposition. So if people out there think that, I can go to any enrolled agent, CPA, or attorney to do this, and it's going to be a couple $100, it's not.
But it's the place where you do spend the money. It's where you don't cut the corners. Most expensive thing, shortcut the first time, find out how much more expensive it can be the next time.
And most of the time they find out that they're in trouble is not just the notices. They try to sell their house or a rental property, and there's a lien on their name, or they want to refinance, and they can't. They didn't even get a notice. So it is a very tedious, long process to deal with this situation. We're not just talking about a notice here like that CP 2000 I mentioned. I'm talking about if you owe $25, $30, $50, $100,000. If your business, you owe back payroll taxes. It's a long, complicated situation and has to be dealt with right the first time.
There's a quote you shared in a couple of videos and an audio where you talk about, and making comparisons to the radio ads and the TV ads that you see in the morning news, about how we'll get you to pay the least amount of money for your taxes.
They say, we'll save you pennies on the dollar.
Right.
Well, they're not allowed to say that anymore. Some still do. But the thing is, I can save you pennies on the dollar too, just a matter of how many pennies. It all depends. Nobody has any magic wand, no magic ball, no Ouija board. There's just specific things you have to fit into the program. But there's ways of analyzing and accumulating that data that fits into the program to the best advantage. And that's where somebody with experience like myself can do that.
And I want the people watching to close your eyes for just a second so you can stop looking at that green shirt and that tie that Jeffrey's got on here. In all the fears and all the stress, in all the pressure that you felt, from the notices that you received to the concerns, to the fears, to the misunderstandings, what you don't comprehend, your worries. Now, imagine all of that being laid out, and maybe everything isn't resolved overnight, in 18 minutes, or in, worst case scenario, there 18 months. But wouldn't it feel that much better for your life, your well-being, and your lifestyle to know that the direction is in place, that those calls and letters can slow up, that there is somebody commanding the direction? And as we've made a lot of references with Mr. Schneider about, rough seas, wouldn't it be that much better to sail on smoother waters? Maybe the storms are still there, but you're heading in the right direction. And that is something that you can't necessarily put a value on. And if 18 minutes by phone, by video, in person at their new office in Stewart, if you're anywhere around the Treasure Coast, that kind of peace of mind, and knowing it's not someone just trying to shortcut some concept and say, we're going to say this, we're not going to fill this out. To know across the board you are being corrected and you are moving in a correct motion so that everything forward can be done right. Isn't that going to make your life tenfold better?
And here's something that you mentioned in the Treasure Coast. Well, with Skype, I have clients all over the country. Texas, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. It doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to see me face to face. We can do it by phone. There's FaceTime. Like I said, Skype. You can do everything like that. and it makes things a lot easier. And dealing with the IRS, like I said, I'm nationally licensed. I can call myself an enrolled agent anywhere.
Beautiful. Coming into the third type, and I think for people watching this, for people looking at the other videos, to visit the websites, SFS Tax Problem Solutions.com, to take a look at the book, even if you're not receiving a notice. This is a book coming out on January 18th that can become this preventative maintenance, this pre-crisis problem solution in advance, even if you don't have a problem, to have that. So something comes in your mail that you weren't even expecting, you know where to go in this book. This is a guide. This is not a book. And this is a book that you are going to want on January 18th, 2018. But coming back to the people that let's just run across. Somebody's getting a divorce. Let's say somebody else is starting a business. Somebody's thinking about getting married. These are all businesses and people that should be checking out this 18-minute opportunity to know that as they move forward, they're moving forward in the right direction. Maybe it's not working with Jeffrey for 18 months, but maybe just a couple sessions or a couple months or a series or a package with you to be able to designate and define the foundation of their business, of their marriage, of their divorce, of a dozen other things, so that problems will not arrive. Talk to us about preventative maintenance consulting.
Well, those are called life changes. And I deal with a lot of clients that call me up. We have one, Lauren, you mentioned. She's going through a divorce and starting a business, so she's getting it from both ways. So in less than 15 minutes' time, I was able to talk to her about what was included in the potential of her divorce decree. And there was at least half a dozen things that I felt were missing, or that the attorney didn't talk to her about, because attorneys are not tax people. To be perfectly honest, I know a lot of attorneys who started in the accounting tax field, and that's why I went to law school. They take a couple classes. That's not their expertise. So I talked to her about what she should be thinking about, what she'd be looking at, especially if the other spouse has a business. You need to do forensics. You need to look at what's in their books to see if they're hiding any money. And I've done that before for many family law attorneys, and found out that the husband is hiding money. And she was able to get more in the terms of a settlement. So that's some of the things I deal with. The same thing if they have a parent or a spouse who passes away. And they say, well, I'm not worth so much. I said, well, how much you could be worth? Oh, $1 million. Now, we think that's a lot of money. But right now, under estate law, you don't pay tax, especially if all of it goes to the other spouse. Well, does that mean you need to file an estate tax return? I'll give you a hint. It's called portability. And what does that mean? Well, that's what I talk to a lot of clients about. And that could save the surviving spouse tons of tax dollars, or their survivors tons of tax dollars. So those are some of the things that I'd like to talk about with clients. When they set up a business, should they be an S Corp? Should they be a sole proprietor? Should they be a C corporation? Now, I don't talk about should they be an Inc., an incorporated entity, an LLC, because that's for liability purposes, and I refer them to an attorney. But then once the attorney says, well, you should be this, or we don't care, then I'll talk about the tax ramifications of it all. And this way they can plan their situation the right way. And we talk about, should they be on payroll? Do they do sales tax? What kind of their books? Do they need licensing? Do they have to provide benefits? And every state's different, and every situation is different. And that's what I talk about with them.
You know, what I do, I'm a branding strategist by day when I'm not interviewing you. And when I talk to people and we design the outline of their business and what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, the second step before the website, before anything, before even the incorporation, I say is to talk to you. These people get hungry, and these are the entrepreneurs and the startups that want to take advantage of that 18 minutes. Because while you're sitting here saying, I want to make $1 million or I want to make $10 million, if you're starting from the start, knowing how this will work if $1 million or $10 million comes your way, your business will continue. Because many businesses, many people have been destroyed by overnight success, a surprise overnight success, that because of the financial problems, the IRS, what wasn't put in place, what wasn't planned for, and this, let's let's go with tsunami effect.
Well, let's go the other way. Let's talk about the people who only make $30,000, $50,000, $70,000. You should be in some kind of legal entity for the most part because of liability. You don't want to get sued. You don't want to lose your personal property. But the first thing that says, I want to be an S Corp. Why? They have no idea. Somebody told them, some attorney said, you should be an S Corp. That's not necessarily true. There are a lot of things, pluses and minuses for being an S Corp versus not being an S Corp and just being an LLC or a sole proprietor. By still being an LLC and still protecting your personal assets. I don't just make blanket statements. I find out if there's partners. What does the other partner think? I can't talk to one partner when their situation is this, and then you have the other partner, their situation is that. There needs to be a cohesive unit, and a lot of people don't realize that. And we have to talk about taking money out of the business if it's not salary. So we go through a whole gambit of things, even for the people who are making, like I said, $100,000 gross revenues. And what happens if they're losing money? How do you handle that for tax purposes? Can I take all my losses or loan money to the company? I can loan money and then take it out. It's not that simple. So I have to sit with people, and I do. And I offer a service that I sit with people for about an hour and go from soup to nuts about their corporation.
What would you say in this hour? Let's say from December 18th to the launch of your book, on January 18th. Some kind of, not just a holiday thing that has to end in December. For the next month, from December 18th, the day I'm expecting this episode to get out there, to January 18th, what would be an hour gift certificate, gift card, that hour of your time that could be used by the entrepreneur looking for the million or the people that are only making 30K, for the person getting divorced, for the person getting married, for someone that's beginning to wonder, do I have a problem? And they want to take it beyond that 18 minutes. What is that hour special for the holidays and into the new year? Let's call it the Jeffrey Schneider Resolution Hour.
Well, normally I charge $325 for an hour. If they sign up before the end of the year, we'll give them about a 60% discount. But that's only for the first 20 people that call. I can't do that for everybody.
No, understandably.
So for the first 20 people that call by the end of the year, I will take 60% off that $325.
Beautiful. So the ultimate stocking stuffer to begin to unstuff the stress from whatever's going on in your life, whatever's going on in your business, to the businesses that you want to build, and anywhere in between.
Right. There could be anything we can talk about. And we may even tell you, don't even incorporate. Don't do anything until January. And there's reasons why you don't want to do that, but that's what you get.
You can't give away the farm. Back to a little bit of a personal element. What brings a New Yorker to Florida?
Oh, back in the day, I was working in corporate tax departments for years, doing this on the side. And a company wanted me to run their tax department. And they hired me. They moved me to the Gulf Coast of Florida. And I was doing such a good job for their largest subsidiary, they decided to wanted to move me back up north to work in their corporate headquarters. I said, let me think about this. No. So I decided to look for another position. I did, in their tax department. I was a manager there, and they moved me to the East Coast. And then after a while, I just said, you know what, I'm done. I want to do this on my own. I like it. I love it. I love dealing with the clients, and that's what I do. And I've been doing that ever since. I've been doing this in taxes since officially 1979. My dad, may he rest in peace, was a tax person, working in corporate, also doing this on the side. He had the worst handwriting in creation. You couldn't understand a 1 from a 4 from a 3. Well, I could. I could interpret his writing. So I learned how to fill out tax forms on our, what we call a rec room table back in New York. And I would just translate everything from his handwriting to the tax form. I didn't always understand what went into it, but I understood how to complete a form, and it was just second nature, and I've been doing it ever since.
And lastly, dogs, cats, elephants, you a pet man?
Well, my wife and I are pseudo-empty nesters. Our 2 kids are out. Thank you. But we have 2 dogs. We have a alpha 14-pound or 12-pound Yorkie. He's the alpha dog. And we have an 80-pound Golden Chow mix. And he's our 80-pound lap dog. So we are both dog people. We love them. We say we're not going to get other ones, but yeah, that'll happen. When, God forbid, they're older, 14 and 12, and we keep saying, no more, this way we can be true empty nesters. I doubt it. We'll probably get another one if I know my wife. And know me. We've already looking at other dogs already, and the other ones are not even gone yet.
Jeffrey A. Schneider, EACTRS, NTPIF, or NTPI Fellow. I've learned this. This is the life-preserving tax tips, quips, and advice from Jeffrey A. Schneider. In this episode number 1, we're identifying, explaining, and introducing your tax professional and where there are aspects and stipulations and stereotypes that you might have had about tax professionals. You're getting a sense of the authority and the authenticity of this man, his life, his knowledge, and not just the expertise, but a wider array of a man that can look into the widest array of your problems or keep you from creating problems and at the same time remedy those problems in the best way possible. You can find out more at SFS Tax Problem Solutions.com. Jeffrey is located in Stuart, Florida. And we will have more episodes, more webinars. We'll have a little bit more of a focus. We're going to hit certain themes and explain about certain services, certain products, his book, his talks, his consulting, his packages in following episodes to come.